From 12 News, this is Newsmakers.
Summer is nearly here, and that means Rhode Island lawmakers are putting the final touches on a new state budget. The nearly $14 billion plan increases spending on health care, education, pensions, and more. But can the state afford it? We break down the plan with a reporter's roundtable. Plus,
when I was going into the beach, though, I was thinking of my mother and father, my sisters, and I had a kid brother. I was thinking of them back home, you know.
On the 80th anniversary of D-Day, hear from a 99-year-old Woonsocket veteran who took part in the massive invasion that changed the course of history. Welcome to Newsmakers. I'm Tim White alongside 12 News politics editor Ted Nesi, and joining us for a reporters roundtable this week, Patrick Anderson from the Providence Journal and Steph Machado from the Boston Globe. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the program. Ready to get your budget on?
Of course.
Okay. Editor's note, we are taping this on a Friday morning. Tonight the budget is expected to be voted on, so it's all very fluid, but we have a lot to talk about here. And I first want to go around the table. Steph, I'll start with you. What stood out to you in the budget?
Yeah, well, so I cover education, so I was surprised about the cuts to school funding that were proposed by Governor McKee back in January, especially just considering the pandemic recovery is still happening and all of that. And a lot of that was reversed by the House in the new revised version that's getting voted on this week. So that was something I was keeping a close eye on.
Now, we're going to talk about education funding in this show. Patrick, what was your takeaway?
I mean, I was surprised by the pension stuff. There were COLAs restored for retirees, and then overall big picture, just how much federal money is still being used and how much money is in the budget. We've been hearing about a pullback for years as the federal money wanes away and we can't afford this, but this really was sort of a make everyone happy budget where everyone who wanted got a little something that they asked for, and those tough choices look like they're still being pushed out a little bit.
I agree with you. The price tag was my big takeaway too. Go ahead.
I'm right there with Patrick. I mean, I was sitting there, we were both at the budget briefing last Friday night with Speaker Shikarchi, and I'm listening and trying to do some mental running math of, okay, so the Speaker just gave this to this group, and he gave this to this group, and he gave, where is all this money coming from? And when you look at it, the House has fully used up the surplus that came out of last year. The problem is that was a one-time surplus. That is not at all guaranteed to be coming back next year. So my question is, as we've talked about, education funding back to where it started, not with the cuts from McKee, provider rates going up for Medicaid with health care. As Patrick said, new pension benefits or, restoration in some cases. That costs quite a bit of money, and those are annual ongoing costs that, frankly, Governor McKee is going to have to figure out how to cover that in January when he does the next budget bill.
I distinctly remember a debate in which Governor Dan McKee chastised his opponents because his opponents, they were predicting what the budget would be, and he said something like, well, they don't know anything about budgets. The budget's going to go down. It didn't, right? I mean, so it was supposed to go down because COVID money was going to evaporate. Is this still all federal money that is just being pushed into the budget?
This should be the last year where they really have a huge kitty of federal money.
We'll replay this tape this time next year.
Maybe it's possible. There's always ways to make the numbers work, but by the end of this calendar year, they're supposed to have all of that COVID money allocated to its final destination. Until then, they've been able to say it's going here, but then if they need it over there, they move it around. So they shouldn't be able to do that last year, although you could never say never. And that should make next year a lot different. They don't have that COVID cash to fall back on and keep rating if they need to.
I also just think the very large amount of federal money that flowed in over the last 5 or so years amid the pandemic has sort of masked the growth in the base state-funded budget, the one funded the general revenue budget, which is funded fundamentally out of locally generated taxes. I mean, that's up from in the $4 billion range to well into the $5 billion range now. Some of that's inflation, but some of it's just the economy has been growing. They haven't done a lot of tax cuts. They've been finding uses for that money. And again, we are now projecting a significant deficit for next year's budget, even with all that growth in revenue. So even in this period where revenue has picked up quite a bit, the demands for spending have outpaced that, so that Rhode Island's going to be back where it was before the pandemic, trying to fill these budget holes year after year.
So both you and Patrick brought up pensions. Let's touch on that briefly here. Pension changes. Some COLAs are coming back, but not for everyone. and there's some hand-wringing about what that's going to cost the state. Is this one of those proposals that, at the end of the day, sort of displeases everyone? You know, like not all retirees are getting their cost of living increases back, and yet it's going to have a adverse impact, theoretically, on the unfunded liability for the pension.
Well, yeah, it probably depends who you talk to, right? I think some retirees, I'm sure, are going to be happy to get something if they haven't been getting anything. And I think, you know, it's a substantial change. I mean, it's over $400 million being added to the long-term pension shortfall, which just gives you a sense of how much they've added into the benefit system or back in here. But yeah, I think the fact that you're getting some hand-wringing from the fiscal experts who watch the budget closely shows that this is not a small change to pensions. This is, I mean, Diosa, the general treasurer, briefly expressed concern about.
He didn't like it till he did.
Right. He put out a statement very quietly on social media Friday night, saying, "Oh, a little worried about the bond rating." His position was
clarified to him, I think.
Yes, exactly.
And he didn't have a lot of consternation back when the pension report came out, saying, "Here's all the different options of how we can restore COLAs." Up until they actually came out with a proposal.
Well, and I think to Patrick's point, I think people were surprised how much they did.
Yeah, we were expecting something, but that it would be more the retirees who were really, really angry that they didn't get enough and suggesting it was just a token change. But it really was quite substantial and not everything they hoped for. They didn't get the retroactive COLAs, but they got a lot. And I don't think it's something that most people will really notice, and even most lawmakers will really get angry about because of the cost, until you have one of those budgets where there actually are really tough choices. The budgets that we remember from like post-recession where the governor and the speaker had to cut things and had to consider raising taxes, which haven't even been on the table now. Then those COLAs and things that are given to one group, it becomes a little more zero sum, and people really notice it more.
And there's always a surprise, right? We didn't expect the Washington Bridge to shut down. They moved some ARPA money over to the Washington Bridge from some other things that didn't pan out. That money won't exist anymore the next time there's an emergency, if hopefully another bridge doesn't shut down.
Citizens Bank. I was reluctant to talk about Citizens Bank on the show because, again, we're taping on a Friday morning, and this could change by tonight. But it seems like Rhode Island is getting inhospitable to Citizens Bank. There was they wanted to sell their old building in East Providence to the state. That got rejected. And then this tax cut that they wanted that popped up in Massachusetts. That isn't happening, and the head of the Providence Chamber of Commerce took a shot at state leaders at this and warned that citizens could take their ball and go home. Is that realistic? Could citizens go, you know what, I'm out?
I mean, I don't think Citizens is picking up stakes in the next 6 months. They just built a big headquarters in Johnson, and more fundamentally, that's a major shift. I mean, don't forget, Citizens already has a big footprint in Boston. Lots of people there, a big footprint in Stamford. So just kind of shifting where you add people, where things grow, that feels more likely. I guess what I don't know fundamentally is how much Citizens really cares about getting this bank tax cut ASAP, because Governor Healy in Massachusetts signed the bill that cut the bank tax there last fall, and it really didn't pop up in the session until recent weeks, which is what Speaker Shekarchi's saying. But you can hear misgivings, I think, when Shekarchi talks about this. He does seem nervous about how upset Citizens is, but he also clearly thinks there is just not support among rank-and-file lawmakers to do this.
Why isn't there support among rank-and-file, Patrick? What was the opposition here?
Well, I think on the left there is a lot of opposition to anything that helps the banks. It's seen as a special favor for financial institutions. And then among more of the moderates, I think the fact that it came in late and it had that look of a special deal, a special favor, something that we used to do and now we don't do, we've cleaned everything up. Kind of those two things came together to make it the perfect pinata
but let's be
whack.
clear, this wasn't a bill just for Citizens Bank.
No.
This would have benefited all financial banking institutions in Rhode Island.
Seemed, because Citizens was lobbying for it, and because it was paired with the state buying a building in East Providence completely out of the blue with very little backup for why the state would be doing that, it seemed like it made it seem more almost nefarious than it was. It was the kind of thing, I was standing outside the Democratic budget caucus, and they keep very good discipline about not talking about what was said in the budget caucus these days. But the one thing that no one could hide was that everyone was mad about the citizens thing and was bashing it in that caucus.
All right, well, look, we're going to take a break on the program. When we come back, Steph Machado is going to tell you what you need to know about the education funding and what you might be paying for with the Washington Bridge. Stay with us. You're watching Newsmakers. Welcome back to Newsmakers. I'm Tim White alongside Ted Nesi. Joining us for a reporters roundtable, Patrick Anderson from the Providence Journal and Steph Machado from the Boston Globe. Steph, as you pointed out in the first half, you were surprised that Governor McKee's budget slowed state aid to local school districts in the funding formula, and lawmakers, when their budget came out, said, nah, we're going to plow some money back into education. What should people know about it?
Yeah, and so the first thing to know is that part of why school funding was going to get cut in the first place was because of enrollment drops, and the state was essentially no longer going to hold districts harmless for their lost enrollment. They said, you finally have to realize these cuts. And then enrollment rebounded a little bit since McKee's original proposal, but that is not the whole reason why the cuts are now reversed. The House also said we are not going to make this policy change. I'm getting really wonky here, but he wanted
this is
to make
the show for that.
He wanted he wanted to make a change to the education funding formula that would have slowed the growth of what they call the core instructional amount, which is like the main,
Which in government speak is a cut.
Yes,
When
which
you're
is
slowing the
absolutely a
growth.
cut,
Yeah.
absolutely a cut.
I think it was worth, what, $27 million?
Something around there,
Yeah.
yes. And they were, right now the way it works is that we were comparing ourselves to Massachusetts, Connecticut, and New Hampshire as we calculate how much that number goes up every year, and he wanted to change the way that was calculated. The House said, nope, we're not going to do that. And so that cut was reversed, and it resulted in a lot of districts like Providence was going to get a cut to its education funding. Now they're going to get an $11 million increase.
Okay.
I think, and it is important to say, McKee, it is surprising to see Dan McKee, someone who is,
Yes.
education has been, I would say, his number one issue his entire time in statewide office, even before. But I think it was a sign from his administration that they were worried about the budget outlook in future years with this federal money dried up. And you have to look for ways to hold down the growth of the things that are big parts of the budget already, education being one of them. I can't imagine this was like his first choice, just knowing where he starts from. So I'm curious to see if he tries to do anything with that next January, since the deficit for next year has only probably gotten bigger based on all the spending the House has added.
And
Right.
you pointed out before the show, it's an election year.
It is?
Yes.
It is.
And budgets are very different in an election
And
year.
there is still federal money in the education budget
Not
this
an election
year.
year for the governor, I should say,
But-
for lawmakers.
Yeah.
Yes.
There is still a federal money from the American Rescue Plan in the budget this year, but for education, that money expires actually sooner than it does for other areas of government, so that has to be spent by September 30th, or obligated, but basically spent. And so next year is going to be a very tough budget year for schools.
All right, go ahead.
I was just going to ask Steph, which communities do the current trends really benefit more than others with what the House is doing and where things are going with the formula?
Well, there's sort of this long-standing complaint that the formula is benefiting wealthier towns like Barrington that are, seeing their enrollment go up. Whereas, urban core districts that have, a lot of high needs and are seeing enrollment drop because of because of kids going to charter schools and other reasons, are not seeing growth at the same level. And so there is definitely a conversation that the funding formula needs to be overhauled in a big, big way to sort of stop the bleeding, so to speak, from the urban core districts, which was, again, this year they've sort of reversed those cuts, but charter schools are going to continue to expand, and the money follows the student, and it is mostly urban core districts where those students are, the parents are choosing not to send their kids to the Providence Public Schools, the Central Falls Public Schools, the Pawtucket Public Schools, and send them to charter schools instead, and then the districts lose that money.
Let's talk about the Washington Bridge. And Patrick, this is such a moving target. I mean, the price tag estimate is $455 million, I think, to repair. To replace, that thing. And frankly, I hate even asking the question this way, because the last time I checked, federal taxes were taken out of my paycheck. But that being said, how did lawmakers get their arm around what the state spending would be on this, potentially?
Yeah. Well, they're estimating right now it's in the 84 million of what the state's share, the state's match would be. But they don't have a contract. They don't have a design to actually rebuild it yet. We don't know if there are bidders on rebuilding the bridge. Those bids will come in this summer, towards the end of this, towards the end of this month, and they'll probably make a decision in July. And until they have a design and a contractor in place, we really won't know how much it costs. And there's a lot of speculation from people in the construction world that after what happened last time, and then with lawsuits potentially raining down on anyone who touches this bridge, that no one really wants to bid on it. Right, no one really wants to.
I've been reading it. You're reading these stories in parallel, going after all these big contracting firms and then saying we want to partner with some contractor with big incentives for you to get the bridge done and everything else. But look what happened to the last group of people we worked with on the Washington Bridge. So I am curious how that dynamic plays out. I mean, look, money is money. If a company thinks they can make money on the bridge, they might take the risk. But that's an interesting dynamic to watch.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say that I also think it's interesting that all of the conversation has turned to the money, both the recouping in the lawsuit and then also the getting the money to rebuild the bridge, which is all very important, but very little attention now on the day of reckoning for whoever is responsible for not maintaining the bridge over years and years and years and not realizing that it was in danger of collapse. Or
the ever-moving target of that forensic analysis we were all supposed to get back in the late
It's
winter.
found a shelf to sit on.
Exactly.
All right, we have less than 2 minutes left. We've talked about housing a lot on the show. No surprise, the budget, Shekarchi's budget, has more money in the housing bond than the governor had proposed. Where is his beloved accessory dwelling unit bill, the ADU bill? Is that going to happen?
It's in the Senate. It's going to be negotiations between the House and the Senate because the Senate knows it's Shekarchi's top priority, or one of the housing is his top priority. They're holding it to the end. They're holding it hostage, and they have a watered down a little bit version that has restrictions on who will get to build them and restricted to owner occupied. He's pushing back. So that will be decided right at the end, as things always are. Something I'm guessing will probably pass. He also has a couple of other important housing bills, including building code stuff to allow triple deckers and things like that to be built. But I'd expect something, but it's still very much in the negotiation and fighting.
The downside for Shekarchi, briefly, that of everyone knowing how synonymous he is with housing is the Senate knows they have a little leverage because he really wants those bills, which means the Senate knows hold them in their back pocket to get whatever it is, and I'm not quite sure what it is. The Senate's going to want most on. Maybe it'd be a chicken coop bill like a few years ago.
I remember that. All right, well, we're going to take a break, and I appreciate Patrick Anderson. Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. Steph Machado, Ted Nesi. When we come back, a remarkable story of a man's experience on D-Day 80 years ago. Stay with us. You're watching Newsmakers. Welcome back to Newsmakers. I'm Tim White. For as long as most of us have been alive, June 6 has been a day of commemoration, marking the moment in 1944 when a massive force of American and Allied troops stormed the French coast under heavy fire in order to free Western Europe from the Nazis. D-Day. This video from the WPRI 12 archives is from 1984, the 40th anniversary of D-Day, when Rhode Island veterans of the invasion gathered for a well-attended dinner to recount the Normandy landings and pay tribute to those who died.
It makes me feel good that I was one of the lucky ones to come back. And I thank God every day that I did.
I was driving the truck. Everybody in that truck died when a bomb came. The dive bombers came. And they knew their stuff. I was one of the few who didn't.
Now, 80 years after D-Day, nearly all the men who took part in the invasion are gone, but Woonsocket's Richard Fazzio is still alive and sharp as ever at age 99. Fazzio was only 19 when he piloted a boat full of soldiers to Omaha Beach on D-Day. He's rarely told his story on camera, but on this 80th anniversary, he agreed to sit down with our own Ted Nesi. Here's Ted's report.
But there's a better picture inside.
Okay.
At 99 years old, Richard Fazzio's memory and his sense of humor
He says to me, Faz, you're going to give me that chocolate bar?
are still sharp.
So I ate the whole bar. Was he mad? Oh.
He's even still mowing the lawn at his home in Woonsocket, the same city where he was born in 1925, one of 8 children raised by 2 Italian immigrants.
So this was your ship.
Yeah. the Enrico.
After the U.S. entered World War II, Fazzio enlisted in the Navy and was sent to England, where General Dwight Eisenhower was mobilizing troops for a massive assault against Hitler's Nazi forces. Eventually, Fazzio and his crewmate Robert Breen got their orders.
Did you know at that point you were going to be part of the invasion?
Oh, no.
Still didn't know.
No, it still didn't know. Then they told us it was going to be a Normandy invasion. I looked at Bree and I said, we're going to really see some action now.
As a Navy coxswain, Fazzio's assignment on D-Day was to pilot a boat carrying roughly 40 troops to Omaha Beach, part of the invasion's first wave.
When we got there, they anchored, I think it was about something around 4 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, they anchored, right? And then about half an hour or an hour before they hit the beach, every ship in that harbor started firing. I'm telling you, it was beautiful. I was amazed. It was like 1,000 4th of Julys. And I looked at Bree and I said, Bree, and I said, when we hit that beach, it's going to be nothing there. This is going to be a picnic, I told her.
But the bombers had overshot their targets, leaving Nazi defenses intact on the coastline.
As we got closer, the bullets were hitting the side of the water and the boat. And all the soldiers who were in my boat, they got up to look, you know. So I had to yell at them, heads down, keep your heads down.
Eventually, Fazzio ordered all the soldiers to storm the beach. One of them froze and had to be pushed.
And he's climbing over the ramp. So when he got to the top, I don't know if he fell over, jumped over, or he was shot, gone over. When he went over, I turned around this way, and I see what was going on.
It was horrible.
I see the boats get hit. They were hitting the obstacles. Finally, it hit me. I said, you gotta get off this freaking beach. So I put it in reverse, and I started heading back.
Fazzio didn't realize it yet, but he himself had been shot.
Oh, there it is.
He recovered and later returned to his crew, seeing more combat.
They got the telegram.
Discharged after the war, Fazzio remained lifelong friends with Breen and his other crewmates, but he didn't talk about what he'd seen on D-Day for 25 years.
You don't like to talk about it?
No.
Why not?
I just don't.
Yeah.
Because it brings me up about that, what I saw and everything else. I just don't like talking about it.
You know, people are going to watch this story and they're going to say, he's a hero. What do you say to that?
No, heroes are all dead. I'm a survivor.
Thank you, Mr. Fazzio, for sharing that story with us. Now, he told Ted he had no interest in attending any of this year's D-Day ceremonies, but others who took part in the invasion went to Normandy, where world leaders, including President Biden, Britain's King Charles, and French President Emmanuel Macron, all paid tribute to them and their fellow veterans. Also there, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, who shared this moment with a D-Day veteran.
The Ukrainian Prime Minister is busy fighting right now. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're the savior of the people.
Man, what a remarkable moment that was. I want to thank you for watching Newsmakers. If you've missed any of it, it's on WPRI.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. We'll see you next week on Newsmakers.